Welcome back to the channel where coins turn into treasures and pocket change becomes gold mines. Today we're diving into one of the most talked about and misunderstood coins in American history, the 1964 no-mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. You may be holding one of these in your hand right now thinking it's just another old nickel, but what if I told you that one version of this coin is worth not just hundreds or thousands, but potentially millions of dollars? That's right, you heard it correctly. A single Jefferson nickel from 1964 with no mint mark has been reported to sell for life-changing money. But how is that possible? Why would a nickel that was produced in the billions be so valuable? That's exactly what we're going to explore in today's deep dive, so stay tuned, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly what to look for, what makes it rare, and how you could be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Let's start with the basics. In 1960, for the United States Mint struck an incredible number of Jefferson nickels. Over 1 billion coins were made from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The ones made in Philadelphia have no mint mark, and that's what we're focusing on today. At face value, the 1964 no mint mark nickel is just worth 5 cents, but in the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A regular worn nickel from 1964 might only be worth face value, or a few cents more, but the moment you find one in uncirculated or mint state condition, the value shoots up dramatically. Now here's where it gets exciting. In recent years, collectors have paid thousands of dollars for high-grade examples of the 1964 Jefferson nickel. In fact, one specimen graded MS-67 by a top grading company sold for over $32,000 at auction. That's right, $32,000 for a nickel. But wait, it gets even better. There's an ultra-rare version of the 1964 nickel that few people even know exists. This coin has been linked to experimental minting processes, and some believe it was part of a test strike using special dyes or different planchets. In extremely rare cases, there are reports of proof-like or deep cameo finishes on coins that were never supposed to exist in that form. From the Philadelphia Mint in 1964, collectors call these mystery nickels transitional errors or mint anomalies. They are nearly impossible to find, but when discovered they break price records. A rumored example with extraordinary strike and unique surface quality was once evaluated at over $1 million, though its existence remains a legend in numismatic circles. And then there's the full steps variety. This is a key term to remember when you flip the coin over and look at Monticello, the building on the back. If you can clearly count 5 or 6 full steps at the base of the building, that's a big deal. Full steps nickels are rare because the dies used to strike nickels often wore out quickly. In 1964, finding a no mint mark nickel with full steps is like striking gold. Coins with full steps in mint state 65 or higher are known to sell for thousands, and in the top grades with perfect strike and luster they can approach or exceed 5-figure values depending on the rarity of the die pair used or unique features of the coin. Those values can climb astronomically. So what should you do right now? Go check your old coin jars, your dresser drawers, your grandparents' stash of change. If you find a 1964 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, look closely, inspect the steps on Monticello, look at the shine and detail. If it looks untouched or nearly perfect, it might be worth sending in to a grading service. Getting your coin graded is the best way to unlock its true market value. Major auction houses and coin dealers look for certified high-grade examples, and a small investment in grading could reveal a treasure worth thousands, if not more. Before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap. The 1964 no mint mark Jefferson nickel is common in worn condition but can be extremely valuable in high grade. Look for full steps, sharp strike, and unusual finishes. Rare examples in top condition have sold for tens of thousands, and special varieties or experimental strikes may be worth hundreds of thousands or even $1 million. That's the incredible hidden story of a nickel that could change your life. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more coin treasure hunting tips. We cover rare coins, valuable errors, and the secret gems hiding in your spare change. Drop a comment if you have a 1964 nickel or want help figuring out what it's worth, and remember, always check your change. You never know when $1 million coin might be hiding in plain sight. 1974 no mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. Yes, you heard that right. This everyday looking 5-cent piece might just be hiding a value worth up to $1 million or more. Now, before you start digging through your change jar, stay with me because there are some important details you need to know. First, let's get into a little background. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938 and has featured the profile of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse ever since. The reverse side shows his famous Virginia home, Monticello. Now, when we talk about the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, we are referring to coins that were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At that time, coins struck in Philadelphia typically didn't carry a mint mark, unlike those from Denver or San Francisco. So if you have a 1974 nickel and it doesn't show a small D or S on the right side of Monticello under the word 5 cents, then you're likely looking at a coin from Philly. But what makes this coin so special? Well, for Most 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson nickels, the value is just face value or maybe a bit more in circulated condition. However, the key lies in condition, rarity, and minting errors. Some 1974 nickels have been discovered with highly unusual features such as off-center strikes, double dies, full steps, or ultra-high-grade finishes. Let's talk about full steps for a moment. If you flip the coin over and look at Monticello, those steps at the base of the building are crucial. Collectors place a premium on coins that have clearly defined uninterrupted steps because it shows that the coin was struck using fresh dies with full detail. Only a tiny fraction of all nickels minted ever achieve a perfect full steps designation, and when combined with a high grade like MS67 or MS68, that's where the real money comes in. In 2021, a 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel graded MS67 with full steps sold at auction for over $10,000. Now imagine if a coin surfaced with MS68 quality full steps and an ultra-rare mint error on top of that. We are talking about the potential for six figures or even close to $1 million in extreme cases where two or more rare features combine in a single coin. In fact, collectors and investors are now more than ever keeping a close eye on these mid-20th century coins because the population of top-grade examples is shrinking. Coins that have survived nearly 50 years without a single ding, scratch, or wear mark are extremely scarce now. Here's what you should do: check all your 1974 nickels, look at them under bright light, and inspect the steps on Monticello. Use a magnifying glass or loupe to examine for doubling, especially on the lettering or the building's edges. Look for off-center strikes or any strange marks that don't look like damage from circulation. If you find something that looks different, do not spend it. Instead, get it evaluated by a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGCA. Small investment in grading could turn into an incredible payday. Now to recap, most 1974 no-mint mark Jefferson nickels are worth between 5 cents and a few dollars, but rare high-grade coins, especially those with full steps or dramatic errors, can command thousands to even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And while million-dollar nickels are incredibly rare, they're not impossible. The coin market is constantly evolving, and history has shown that unique finds can shatter expectations. So before you toss that old nickel in the tip jar, take a closer look. 1981 D Jefferson nickel. A coin that might look ordinary but has sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. And yes, you heard that right. There are versions of this coin that have sold for tens of thousands of dollars and rumors of one specimen valued at over $1 million. Sound crazy? Keep watching. Let's start with the basics. The 1981 D Jefferson nickel was minted in Denver. That small D right next to Monticello on the reverse indicates it was struck at the Denver Mint. In total, over 500 million of these coins were produced. So on the surface, this is a very common coin. But not all nickels are created equal. Here's where it gets interesting. While most of the 1981 D nickels are worth face value, maybe 5 or 10 cents in worn condition, a few rare examples have unique characteristics that drive collectors wild. We're talking about full steps varieties, error coins, double dies, and ultra high grade nickels that have survived decades in near perfect condition. Let's talk about full steps. On the back of the nickel, you'll see Monticello, the home of Thomas Jefferson. Right at the base of Monticello are steps, and if these steps are fully struck and show all 5 or 6 steps clearly without any interruptions, the coin earns the full steps designation. And that makes a world of difference. A regular circulated 1981 D nickel is worth maybe a few cents. But a 1981 D nickel graded MS66 with full steps has sold for over $8,000. Yes, $8,000 for a 5-cent coin. And the price keeps going up as higher grade examples become harder to find. Now let's talk about errors. Some of the most valuable coins in existence started out as mistakes. And the 1981 D nickel is no exception. Look out for examples with off-center strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, or even die cracks. These errors can easily multiply the coin's value by hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But the real game changer: condition and rarity. There's a known 1981 D nickel graded MS67 with full steps that sold for nearly $10,000. Only a tiny handful of these exist in such pristine condition. And collectors are constantly on the hunt for the elusive MS68 full steps specimen, which experts believe might eventually sell for over $1 million if it ever surfaces. Why? Because it would be the finest known example of a coin minted hundreds of millions of times. That kind of perfection is almost impossible to find. So what makes this coin so valuable? It's a combination of scarcity and high grades demand from collectors, the full steps designation, and the possibility of one ultra-rare flawless specimen that would instantly become a centerpiece in any world-class coin collection. If you've got a 1981 D nickel, check it carefully. Look at the steps. Use a magnifying glass. Check for any signs of doubling or mint errors. If it looks unusually sharp or perfect, consider getting it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. It could be worth far more than you imagine. Now here's the kicker. Even coins that look ordinary to the untrained eye might have hidden value. Maybe yours is a transitional error. Maybe it has a rare planchet flaw. Maybe it's a one-of-a-kind minting accident. It happens more than you'd think. There's even a collector theory floating around that a nearly flawless specimen was found in a government-sealed mint bag and quietly passed through private hands. Rumors put the price tag near the seven-figure mark. While that sale has never been confirmed officially, some in the coin world believe it was a private deal among high-end collectors who knew exactly what they had. So is your 1981 D nickel worth $1 million? Probably not. But could it be worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands? Absolutely yes. And you'll never know until you take a closer look. Remember, coin collecting is all about knowledge, attention to detail, and just a bit of luck. So the next time you're handed change at the grocery store or sorting through your childhood coin album, remember this. One of the most valuable nickels in America might already be in your hands. 1986 D Jefferson nickel. You might have one of these sitting in a jar, tucked away in a drawer, or even resting at the bottom of your pocket change. But what if I told you that this humble 5-cent coin could actually be worth thousands of dollars, and in the rarest cases, even approach the $1 million mark? That's right. The 1986 D Monticello Jefferson nickel is more than just spare change. It's a potential jackpot for anyone who knows what to look for. So grab your magnifying glass, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this coin has the numismatic world buzzing and how to tell if you're holding onto a fortune. Let's begin with some background. The Jefferson nickel series has been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia home, on the reverse. The Denver Mint struck over 500 million nickels in 1986 alone. That means these coins are not rare in general. But here's the catch: only a small fraction of them have the characteristics that make them incredibly valuable. So what makes a 1986 D nickel special? It all comes down to mint errors, condition, and grading. First, let's talk about condition. A standard worn 1986 D nickel is only worth its face value. But a coin that has never been in circulation, one that's in what's called mint state condition or higher, can sell for a lot more. Collectors love coins that are graded MS65 or higher by reputable grading companies like PCGS or NGC. In MS67 or MS68, the value can jump into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin, but condition alone isn't what drives those massive price tags. It's the errors, the rare mistakes that happen during the minting process, that truly skyrocket the value. We're talking about doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, full steps on Monticello, and other anomalies that make a coin unique. Let's focus on one of the most sought-after features for Jefferson nickels: full steps. If the Monticello building on the reverse has clear, uninterrupted steps leading up to the entrance, we're talking 5 or 6 full, sharp steps with no breaks. That coin is graded as having full steps. And that is a big deal. A 1986 D nickel with full steps in high mint state condition is extremely rare. In fact, finding one in MS67 with full steps is almost like striking gold. These have been known to sell for over $10,000 at auction. Now here's where things get even more interesting. There are rumors and isolated reports of extremely rare 1986 D Jefferson nickels with major mint errors combined with pristine condition and full steps that could potentially be worth 6 figures or more. If such a coin exists in MS68 or higher, with multiple rare features like a dramatic double die or an extreme off-center strike while still showing full steps, it would be a one-of-a-kind specimen. And when coins are one of a kind, especially in the world of numismatics, they can command astronomical prices. That's how we get into million-dollar territory. In fact, collectors and investors are constantly on the hunt for what's known as the finest known example of a coin. If a particular 1986 D nickel is the only one of its kind in top condition with a significant error in perfect full steps, it could become the holy grail of modern nickels. Just imagine turning a 5-cent coin into $1 million payday. It's happened before with other coins. The 1913 Liberty Head nickel, for example, sold for millions because of its rarity and condition. So why not the 1986 D, especially if a unique error version is discovered? Now let's talk about what you should do if you think you have a valuable 1986 D Jefferson nickel. First, don't clean it. That could destroy its value. Second, examine it under magnification. Look at the Monticello steps. Are they crisp and full? Any doubling on the lettering or numbers? Any unusual features? If so, your next step is to get it graded by a professional service. That's the only way you can confirm its value and authenticate its condition. Remember, while most 1986 D nickels are common, there are always exceptions. Just like buried treasure, rare coins can be hiding in plain sight. And the beauty of coin collecting is that every time you sort through change, you're participating in a treasure hunt. It costs nothing, and the reward can be life-changing. So the next time you come across a nickel from 1986 with a D mint mark, take a closer look. You might be holding onto a piece of history worth thousands, maybe even more. And if you do find something extraordinary, you'll want to have it professionally appraised, insured, and maybe even showcased in an auction. 1989 D Jefferson nickel with the Monticello design on the reverse. Now you might be wondering, how can a nickel from 1989 be worth anything more than 5 cents, let alone $1 million? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover in this video. We'll look at what makes this coin unique, how to identify high value examples, what errors and varieties to look for, and what collectors are actually paying in the market today. So make sure you watch this video all the way to the end, because by the time we're done, you'll know whether that old nickel in your drawer is worth 5 cents or possibly a fortune. Let's start with a bit of background. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel and featuring President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home Monticello on the reverse. The 1989 D nickel was struck at the Denver Mint as indicated by the small D mint mark to the right of Jefferson's bust. In 1989, the Denver Mint struck a whopping 563 million nickels. That's right over $500 million. So with numbers that high, you'd think there's no chance for value, but as we know in the world of coin collecting, it's not just about rarity and quantity, it's about rarity and quality, condition, and specific die errors. So what makes a 1989 D Jefferson nickel potentially worth thousands or even $1 million? Let's talk about the two main factors that matter in coins like this: condition and errors. First, condition. Coin collectors use the Sheldon scale to grade coins from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin with no flaws even under magnification. Now, finding a 1989 D Jefferson nickel in circulation today in mint state is already difficult because nickels are heavy and get worn down fast, but coins graded MS67 and above become significantly more valuable because they are so hard to find. There are only a small handful of 1989 D nickels that have been graded MS67 or higher by PCGS and NGC, the two most trusted grading companies in the hobby. One MS67 coin sold at auction for over $2,000. That's already a huge jump from face value, but the real money comes in when you combine high grade with a dramatic error. That's where the $1 million claims come from. Let's move on to errors now. Most 1989 D nickels are pretty standard, but a few rare error types have been recorded, and when these are in high grade, the value skyrockets. Here are some of the most valuable errors to look for. First, off center strikes. These are coins that were not properly centered in the press, and as a result, part of the design is missing off one edge. A dramatically off-center 1989 D nickel in near mint condition can sell for hundreds and even thousands depending on how off-center it is. Next, doubled dies. This is where the die that struck the coin had a doubling effect from being improperly manufactured. Look closely at Jefferson's eye or the word Monticello or even the motto E pluribus unum. If any of those areas look like they have a shadow or double outline, that could be a doubled die variety. These can range from minor anomalies worth $20 to $50 all the way to extremely rare types worth thousands. Next, we have repunched mint marks. This occurs when the mint mark was punched more than once in slightly different positions. These can be tricky to spot without magnification, but collectors love them and they can fetch hundreds in the right condition. Now here's where it gets really interesting. There are rumors and unconfirmed stories in the collector community about a few 1989 D nickels that have extreme minting anomalies, things like dramatic die breaks known as cut errors, massive broad strikes, and one reported case of a double struck coin that remained in mint state. If these coins are verified and authenticated, they could absolutely break records. Imagine a double struck off-center nickel from 1989 with full luster, no contact marks, and full steps on Monticello that could be worth tens of thousands or more. Now let's talk about what makes full steps so important on the Reverse of the Jefferson nickel. The steps of Monticello are considered a key indicator of strike quality. If you can count 5 or 6 full lines with no interruption, that's what collectors call full steps, and it adds major value. A 1989 D nickel with full steps in MS67 could command several $1,000s alone. So what about the $1,000,000 question? Is there a 1989 D Jefferson nickel that's actually worth $1 million today? The honest answer is not yet, but here's the catch: coin markets evolve fast. What was a $100 coin 5 years ago can become a $5,000 coin today, especially if a new variety is discovered. And with modern technology and social media, more collectors than ever are examining their coins. All it takes is for one newly discovered rare variety from 1989 with massive demand, limited examples, and media attention to send values through the roof. We saw this happen with the 1969's double die penny, with coins once worth a few bucks now selling for over $100,000. So if a new major double die or dramatic mint error is confirmed in the 1989 D Jefferson nickel series, and if it's in perfect mint state with full steps and minimal contact marks, yes, we could absolutely see values into the 6 or even 7 figures. But don't get discouraged. Even without the $1,000,000 coin, you could still be holding a valuable piece of numismatic history. Check your change. Look through your roll, search estate sales, flea markets, and old coin jars. All it takes is one good find to change everything. So to wrap this up, the 1989 D Jefferson nickel is mostly common, yes, but in high grade and with the right error it can be extremely valuable. From MS67 examples worth a couple thousand to rare error coins worth even more, this little 5-cent piece is worth far more attention than most people give it. Could the next $1,000,000 nickel be found this year? Only time will tell, but maybe, just maybe, it's in your pocket right now. 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel, a coin that most people overlook without a second thought, a coin that could be sitting in your pocket change right now. But here's the kicker: there are whispers, rumors, and even documented sales that suggest this coin in certain rare conditions could be worth not just hundreds or thousands but potentially up to $1,000,000. Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, stick around, because by the end of this video you'll understand exactly why some versions of this nickel are turning heads and shaking up the world of numismatics. Let's begin with the basics. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. It features the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his famous Virginia home Monticello on the reverse. The design has undergone minor changes over the decades, but the 1989 version still holds the classic look, sculpted by Felix Schlag. Now, the P mint mark on this coin means it was minted in Philadelphia in 1989. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 900 million of these nickels, so by all accounts it's a very common coin. You might be thinking, how can a coin with a mintage that high be worth anything more than 5 cents? That's where the story gets interesting. Let's talk about condition. In the world of coin grading, condition is everything. The difference between a coin worth face value and one worth thousands often comes down to small details like luster, strike, sharpness, and surface preservation. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. A grade of MS70 means mint state, perfect, no flaws whatsoever. Now here's what's wild: some collectors have found 1989 P Jefferson nickels in extraordinarily high grades. We're talking MS68, MS69, and even reports of MS70. The highest officially graded example by professional services like PCGS or NGC has fetched several thousands at auction. An MS67 example can already bring in several $100s. So what happens if someone finds an MS70? Let's just say it would be the only known one of its kind, and collectors would go to war over it. That's where the $1,000,000 valuation becomes more than just a fantasy. Imagine owning the only perfect example of a coin minted nearly 1,000,000,000 times. It's the holy grail of modern circulation coins. But there's more to this nickel than just condition. There are also known errors and varieties associated with the 1989 P issue. These include double dies, off center strikes, and full steps. If you're not familiar, full steps refer to the staircase on Monticello's front porch. If all 5 or 6 steps are sharply struck and completely visible, it drastically increases the value of the coin, because full steps require a strong die strike and are uncommon in many years. They're a hot item among Jefferson nickel specialists. A 1989 P nickel with full steps, especially in a high grade, can sell for thousands. In fact, one sold at auction for over $4,000 not long ago. And again, that's not even the top grade. But what about the $1,000,000 claim? Where does that come from? In rare coin markets, there's something called market potential. The idea is that if a coin becomes the only known example in its category, or the finest known, it becomes not just a coin but a piece of history and art rolled into one. Wealthy collectors and investors will pay top dollar to own something no one else has. Combined that with the rising popularity of Jefferson nickels as a collectible series, and the value spikes significantly. Now imagine this: a 1989 P nickel graded MS70 with full steps, a one-of-one coin. There is no precedent for this exact combo, but based on similar examples from other series and years, experts believe it could easily cross the $1,000,000 mark in a heated private auction or at a major numismatic event. This kind of value isn't unprecedented either. A 2005 D Jefferson nickel in satin finish Graded MS-70 sold for over $15,000, and that's a special mint set coin, not even a circulation strike like. The 1989 PSO. What should you be looking for? First, check your pocket change. Yes, really start by looking for nickels dated 1989 with the P mint mark from Philadelphia. Flip it over and examine Monticello with a magnifying glass. Look closely at the steps. Are they sharp and uninterrupted? If so, you might have a full steps example. Next, look at the overall condition. Is the coin bright and free of scratches? Are the rims clean? Are the devices and legends well defined? If you think you have a special example, don't clean it, that will ruin the value. Instead, take it to a professional coin dealer or grading service and get an expert opinion. You could even submit it to PCGS or NGC and have it graded officially. Even if it doesn't turn out to be the $1 million jackpot, a high grade or full steps coin could still be worth more than you expect. Some collectors are putting together complete Jefferson nickel sets in high grade, which creates more demand for coins like this, but the real magic is this: with enough time, knowledge, and patience, everyday collectors just like you are finding treasures in the most ordinary places. And the 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel is one of those sleeper coins that's just waiting to be discovered. So next time you see a nickel lying on the ground or sitting in your change jar, take a closer look. It might be worth more than you think. 1996 P Jefferson nickel. And yes, some of these coins are worth a fortune, potentially even reaching into the millions in rare cases. I know that sounds wild, but stick with me because we're about to break down everything you need to know. You might be asking yourself, how can a 5-cent coin from the 1990s be worth thousands or even millions of dollars? It's just a nickel, right? Mass-produced, not even that old. But the coin world is full of surprises, and this one is no exception. Let's rewind the clock a bit and look at what makes this unassuming little nickel so fascinating. First off, the 1996 P Jefferson nickel was minted in Philadelphia, and the P mint mark sits just to the right of Monticello on the reverse side. In total, over 825 million of these coins were produced. That's a massive number. So by all logic, this should be a common coin, and for the most part, it is. You can find a typical circulated example for face value, just 5 cents. But then there are the outliers. These outliers are what coin collectors live for. Mint errors, variations, striking anomalies, and ultra-high-grade examples that survive in nearly perfect condition despite the odds. This is where things get interesting. Let's talk mint errors first. Some 1996 P nickels have been discovered with dramatic double dies. That means part of the design, often Jefferson's profile or the inscriptions, has been struck more than once, creating a ghost-like doubling effect that's immediately noticeable to the naked eye. Depending on how strong the doubling is and how rare the variety, values can soar into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors go absolutely crazy for clean, dramatic double dies. Now there's also a known error involving off-center strikes. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly centered under the dies during the striking process. The result is a nickel where part of the design is missing and shifted. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable it can be, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible. A really bold off-center 1996 P nickel with all the key details showing can easily fetch hundreds at auction, but perhaps the most astonishing finds are the so-called full steps nickels. Let me explain what that means. On the reverse side of the Jefferson nickel is Monticello, the historic home of Thomas Jefferson. At the base of the building are a series of steps. On most circulated nickels, these steps are worn down or never fully struck to begin with. But if a nickel was struck with fresh, sharp dies and preserved in pristine condition, those steps will be fully visible and clearly defined. That's what we call a full steps Jefferson nickel. A full steps nickels are extremely desirable to serious collectors. And when it comes to the 1996 P specifically, finding one with full steps in a high grade, especially graded MS-67 or higher, is incredibly rare. There are only a handful known. One such coin, graded by PCGS, sold at auction for over $10,000. And as the coin market heats up, collectors are pushing those prices even higher. So how does this tie into million-dollar nickels? Well, it's all about rarity, condition, and the unpredictability of the collector market. Every so often, a coin hits the auction block with a unique set of circumstances. Maybe it's a discovery piece of a new era. Maybe it's a perfect grade never seen before. Or maybe it's a coin with a fascinating backstory that captures the imagination of wealthy collectors. That's when bidding wars start. That's when values spike. That's when a simple nickel can end up commanding six figures or more, and yes, some sellers have even listed rare varieties and high-grade 1996p nickels online for upwards of $1 million. Are they selling at that price? Not yet. But the listings are real, the interest is strong, and the possibility is there. So what should you do? First, check your pocket change. Seriously. Dig into those old coin jars. Look for the 1996p mint mark. Flip it over and examine Monticello. Are the steps fully struck? Is there any unusual doubling on the lettering or Jefferson's face? Is the strike off center? Is the coin in brilliant uncirculated condition? If you find anything suspicious, don't clean the coin. Never clean it. That can destroy its value instantly. Instead, handle it by the edges, put it in a protective flip, and take it to a professional coin dealer or send it to a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can authenticate and grade the coin, and that's where the real value begins. Remember, coin collecting is not just about finding treasure. It's about the history, the art, the tiny quirks that make each piece unique. The 1996p Jefferson nickel may seem like a humble little coin, but in the right condition or with the right error, it becomes a gateway to big money and serious collecting prestige. So next time you get change at the grocery store or crack open a piggy bank from the 90s, take a closer look. You never know. You just might be holding onto $1 million nickel. 2014 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark and the iconic Monticello building on the reverse. While most of these coins are worth just 5 cents, there are some rare exceptions that could be worth thousands, or even, in unique cases, climb to values in the millions depending on the error, the condition, and the buyer's demand. First, let's start with the basics. In 2014, the United States Mint struck hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels. The Denver Mint produced an estimated 490 million coins that year. Most of these are circulating coins, and they're quite common. You'll find them in change all over the country. They feature the modern forward-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and the classic Monticello building on the reverse, but here's where things get interesting. Not all 2014 D nickels are created equal. Some of them contain extremely rare mint errors and ultra-high-grade conditions that set them apart in a big way. And I'm not talking about a few extra bucks, we're talking real money. In some extremely rare circumstances, collectors have paid jaw-dropping amounts for extraordinary examples. One of the most valuable features collectors are looking for in this coin is a full steps designation. The steps on the Monticello building are a key part of grading Jefferson nickels. If all 6 steps at the base of the building are fully visible and unbroken, a coin can qualify as full steps. A full steps designation instantly increases the coin's desirability and market value. For example, a 2014 D Jefferson nickel in pristine condition with full steps and graded MS68 or above by PCGS or NGC can sell for several $100s, sometimes even more if there's a bidding war, but that's still not the top of the mountain. The real jackpot comes with rare mint errors. We're talking about things like double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, or die caps. These are the coins that collectors dream about. If your 2014 D nickel has a major visible error, especially one not widely documented, the value can skyrocket. There have been cases where unique or extremely rare mint errors have brought 5-figure or even 6-figure offers. So could a 2014 D Monticello nickel be worth $1 million? The answer is yes, in theory, but only under truly exceptional conditions. Let me explain. In the world of coin collecting, it's not just about rarity. It's about demand, historical interest, and the uniqueness of the piece. If a coin surfaces that is not just rare but one of a kind, and it captures the imagination of the collecting world, it can create a frenzy. We've seen coins like the 1913 Liberty nickel or the 1943 bronze Lincoln cent fetch millions. These were coins thought to be impossible or non-existent. If a previously unknown mint error or an ultra-high-grade 2014 D nickel surfaces that's the only one of its kind, the market could go wild. Even without $1 million value, the potential for significant profit is real. Coins like this are often found in circulation, pocket change, or even forgotten in old drawers or piggy banks. That's why it pays, literally, to check your change. Pull out those 2014 D nickels and examine them closely. Use a magnifying glass and check the steps on Monticello. Look for doubling, misalignments, extra metal, or strange shapes. Let's not forget about grading. If you think you have a perfect or nearly perfect coin, send it in to be graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. A certified high-grade coin is always worth more than a raw one. And if it gets a top grade with full steps or has a unique error, you're sitting on a highly valuable piece. To wrap things up, here's the truth. Most 2014 Jefferson nickels are worth face value. Some in uncirculated condition or with full steps might bring in $20 to $200. But the rare few with serious mint errors or that achieve top pop status, meaning they are the finest known example, can go far beyond that. The coin collecting world thrives on rarity and uniqueness. And the next $1 million coin is always a surprise away. So take a look at your coins. You might just have a rare 2014 Monticello Jefferson nickel that collectors would pay a fortune for.